keep breathing into this very special space where I have the privilege today to welcome a very special man in my life, and I think in some of our present people here's life, Tom Lipinski. First of all, thanks for coming, Tom. Welcome. Great that you're here.
Yeah, I was honored to be asked to be here. I think you asked me like last September or October, so it was quite some time ago. So it's been on my calendar for a long time, so I appreciate that. And thank you for that little breathing exercise we just did. Appreciate that very much. Um, so we're going to talk document. Okay. So I kind of outlined what I wanted to say, but it'll be quite organic. Um, I'm going to share how I even got into this group. Um, so I was a person in a Facebook group I was in with a coaching company or coaching training company. I had taken their course. This person said, asked the question, "What's the one book you read?" And somebody responded and said, "The Prosperous Coach is the book you read." And read it every year at least once. So I picked up The Prosperous Coach, and it was Richard Litvin and Steve Chandler who wrote the book, and I got it in written form and in audio form, and devoured that book and really loved it. But I kept hearing Steve Hardison, Steve Hardison. So I did a Google search for Steve Hardison and went to his webpage and got to know a little bit about who he is. And then it was probably the same day I'm on Facebook scrolling, and there's a, "Do you know this man, Steve Hardison?" So I looked at it and said, "Oh yeah, Facebook is doing their algorithm thing." But then there was a name under there called Mike Coates, who probably most of you know Mike Coates. He and I lived near each other, and we had been on a board of a school, board of a school together, and we only really met once, and that was we talked on the phone a lot and met on some Zooms, I think, but we only met once, and that was to close the bank account down when the school didn't happen. So his name was on there, and it's like, oh, I'm going to reach out to Mike, and I clicked for Steve to, sent him a friend request, and like within 3 minutes, he accepted it, and I think it was like number 750 or something like that into the group. Me and Mike had lunch or breakfast rather about 2 weeks later. He told me about Arizona one, so I called up three friends. Some of you may know Shauna. And then there were two other friends who you probably don't know. And we all hopped a plane to Phoenix, went to the event, and hopped the plane back. We didn't even stay the night. We just went for the day. We flew in for the day. So we got so much out of that. And it's like, that's when I really started understanding what was going on. A week later from that event, I'm at my first Dr. Joe Dispenza retreat in Cancun. So it's like in 1 week, I got the phenomenological way of being with Steve Hardison, the landmark way of being, the nature of being. And then a week later, I'm in Cancun with Dr. Joe going over the science of being. So I got like a huge influx of being. And while I was at the event in Cancun, I started writing down words on a journal, because I was going to create my first document. I already had read the book, but so much of it went through my head, or in one ear and out the other. I didn't realize that you created your document on a forgiveness, self-forgiveness, and love. And I just I put these words in my journal. It was like gratitude, love, just 20 or 30 different words. And then I created my document out of looking good and sounding good. And it was cool. I had that document for I'm gonna say a couple, more than a couple years, with some small tweaks to it. And I would speak it in the morning and I would speak it at night. And and yeah, it worked, but it wasn't out of self-forgiveness. So I'm going to fast forward now. I registered into the 24-25 on Cush Jane Coaching Career School and met a lot of people there. That was like a huge event for me. And in the second classroom in England, a lot of you probably know Igor. Who knows Igor? All right, you guys all know Igor? Okay, well, Igor Furtick, he's this tall guy. He commands the room. He's got this infectious laugh. It's just his laugh just is amazing. And he had a little surprise. It was a surprise to him too, but this guy that created his document in a visual picture frame came and brought that creation to the school on I think it was on the Saturday of the school, or maybe the Sunday. And then he spoke his document in two different languages. I think one was Czech and the other one in English. And I started having tears come into my eyes. And Olga was right there. Terry Broughton was there. There was 40 some people in that, or probably 50 people in that room. But my tears weren't for Igor. My tears were for me having an inferior document, not as good as Igor's document. And and I just was in this terrible place. And Terry Broughton was sitting on the hearth of the fireplace in the room. And I went and I don't know how we ended up. She just seemed like a good person to talk to at the time. And I knew that that was all a bunch of crap that I made up. And so I needed to like talk it out, and she was that person. So we ended up going back into the classroom after about 15 minutes of her and I talking, and more tears and realizations, and then the next thing I know, she's up on stage sharing her document. So it's kind of unique. So that school, that weekend ends, and I it's like it's no getting on Thanksgiving here in the States. It's in November, and um, I'm having a coaching call with On Kush, and he's talking about we talked about my document a lot, and he suggested that I get some help and redo my document. So reluctantly, I called Igor, and Igor said, "Yeah, well, I'll coach you in creating a new document." And and he gave me some tasks to do. One was listen to The Ultimate Coach. The other one was listen to a man named uh, uh, Ragesh talk about his document experience. No, talk about his Be With session with Steve. And so I did all that. I did everything the way Igor said it. And I got to this point where it's like, oh no, you know what? My document is fine. I love my document. It's perfect. And it's not better or worse than anybody else's document. And I almost didn't do the coaching with Igor. That was the follow because I was in a good place. But it's like, no, I'm still going to go follow through on this. So Igor took me through the process, and I've learned it. I've taught it to others. And I created my new document, which has a lot of my old document in it, but the old statements that I retained all now come out of self-forgiveness and love. So they're no longer looking good statements. So that document's undergone a few tweaks. So that's kind of how my documents evolved up to this moment. And I I thought I'd share about why I have a document. So, uh, Wolfgang, we talked about a man named Martin Heidegger when we spoke about a week ago. He's a German philosopher, and he coined a phrase called thrownness. And thrownness is the concept that you don't pick your parents, you don't pick city. You don't pick the time you were born. You don't pick how much money the family has or not. You don't pick any of it. You're just thrown in, and then the environment conditions you, and you become a particular state of being based on your environment. So it's not your programming, it's not you that created yourself, it's your environment, it's your programming. So you really could say that, about the age of 7, or 8, you are already the person you're going to be based on the programming that you've learned over those first few years. So the document is the antidote. It's the kryptonite to the thrownness. And what it does is it for me, it's a way of recognizing the programming and not being the programming and being something that you create. And it's created out of, like we said earlier, self-forgiveness and love. So that right there is why to have a document. And um, I can share a few stories about how I use my document, if that's good. Is that workable? So for me, the document is about preparation. I haven't really heard people describe it too much as preparation, but it's preparing you for the day when you need it or when it would benefit you. I don't know if you need it, but where it would make a difference in your life. So I'm gonna share a little story. I got a couple of them I'll share. This one happened about a year ago. I was at my favorite grocery store shopping. I went in. First of all, I got the closest parking spot to the door, and I went into the store, did my shopping. I came out. I had a cart, and I put it behind my car. I lifted up the trunk, put all the groceries in the trunk, and I had a little snack that I was going to eat on the way home. So I laid that on my start. I went to put it on my front seat, and as I'm opening the door to my car, a lady grabs my shopping cart and he starts yelling at me and starts saying, you're lazy, you're leaving your cart here, you could have took it in the store, it's just 100 steps. And like, she doesn't know me at all, and I never leave my cart in the parking lot, and I always take it to the rack or in the store. And so I started to say to her, "Oh, I was just, putting my snack on the front seat." And before I got that out, she's like, "You're a liar." And it just was ripping into me, and my sympathetic nervous system just switched on. My pupils dilated, my heart was going 90 miles an hour. My breathing was, I was ready to do the three things. What is it? Run, flight, fight, or freeze, or hide. So I was ready to do that. And in that moment, three statements on my document flashed. I mean, it was in the blink of an eye. And one of them is the circumstances occurring in your life or my life and the conditions of my outer world are happening. So it's like the snow, it's like the rain, it just happens. How I respond is solely my creation. And then another one, um, I'm constantly learning and mastering the art of transformation. I recognize that everyone and every circumstance, so that's the lady in the cart and everything that happened, is my teacher. There's something to gain in every moment. And then the third one was, I am love, you are love, we are love. And that literally flashed as fast as a blink of an eye. And I did not respond to that lady how I might have responded uh, a few years before. It probably would have ended up, I would have felt bad for a month. She'd have been crying. It would have been not pretty. So the document was preparation for that moment. So when I speak it in the morning and I speak it at night and listen to recordings of it, it's to prepare me for that situation. Another one that is kind of recent too, maybe 6 months ago. I'm driving on this busy road by my house, and it was just backed up, and the cars were stopping, starting, stopping, starting, and so I got my phone out and I'm scrolling, right, and the car in front of me got maybe two car lengths ahead of me, And the guy behind me starts honking his horn and he's going like this, and he's all upset, and I looked in my rearview mirror and I was like, yep, he's upset. I wasn't paying attention. I was scrolling. And he might be in a hurry. It was just all those same things that happened with the shopping cart lady. It's like I was able to, in the moment, I don't know if I want to even say self-regulate, just respond differently. You know, in the past, I probably would have flipped the guy off. I would have opened up my window. We'd have started yelling, and it just wouldn't have been pretty. And in both cases, I would have felt bad for a while, because after I would do something like that, I'd feel bad. And with the shopping cart lady, it might have lasted a month of feeling bad. And by the time I got home from the shopping cart lady, and really with this guy too, I was in this place of, I love that lady and I love that guy. And they gave me an opportunity, and I gave them an opportunity too, because had I responded in a different way, it might have ruined their day too. So by the time I got home, 8 minutes, I was like completely in a place of love with both of those situations. So to me, that is the document. I'm going through a thing right now where I got some news yesterday about something that, I could, it comes to me, Jan, you'll understand this. We're in the Way of Mastery, and Wolfgang, I know you're in there too. I don't know who else in this room's in that book reading, but this thing comes at me that's very neutral, but I'm making it to be, this really big negative thing. So it's my document that's going to pull me back to neutral and then have me create something out of it. So that's my message about the document is its greatest uh, the greatest tool it is for preparation, to be ready for who you're going to be when it's the hardest to be that. I mean, it's easy to be a particular way or a particular state of being, most of the time, but when your sympathetic nervous system switches on and you get all jacked out of shape, that's when the beauty of the document really shows itself for me. Um, am I going all right? So let me talk about how I integrate my document into my life. So I speak it twice a day. So generally, right when I get up, sometimes it's not immediately, but it's within that, let's say, hour. And I speak it in the car a lot. Um, and and what I have is I have a little piece of paper, I have the document actually, and I have it folded. And I have it completely memorized, so I don't need to have it, but I'll put it on my pillow. So before I fall asleep, it's like, or go even put my head on the pillow, it's like, oh, okay, don't forget to do your document. And then in the morning, and then after I do it, I put it on the banister going to my first floor. I have a two-story house. And when I wake up in the morning, I have to walk past that banister. So it's like it's my little system. So, what does Steve Chandler say? If you're committed, that's one thing, but commitment needs a system. So that's my system so that I do my document twice a day at least. There was a time in the uh, on Cush's school where about 20 of us took on saying it 6 times a day. And that's pretty amazing too. I'm not doing 6 times a day. Probably three would be. I don't think I do it for four in a long time. But when you do speak your document for six different times a day, you will have a different relationship with it. And we had a bunch of us doing it. And I don't know. I don't think anybody. Well, nobody's saying they're still doing it. There might be some still doing it. And then this is something that that's happened to me is the document becomes almost like wallpaper. I've spoken it so many times that I can be speaking it, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, what did I just say? I wasn't even present to the statements that I just said, and that's not speaking your document, because that's being your default. As humans, By the time you reach age 35, neuroscience has said that we're 95% subconscious programming and only 5% conscious. And Steve Hardison, I remember him on multiple experience times saying that he is a walking meditation because he does everything he can to be present in the moment throughout his day. And so that's kind of a goal for me, is to be present in the moment. But when I'm speaking my document and I get to a statement and then I don't realize the five statements before it, you know, that that's a little tell right there to slow down, to start paying attention to the document. Now, one thing that really helps is to journal your document. Is anybody journaling their document? Jan? Yeah, journaling a document is so helpful. And I'll usually journal it backwards. I'll take the last statement and I'll write it down in my journal. I've got a yellow journal book for it, and I'll say what it is. And then, the next day I'll do another statement, another statement, another statement. But you could do two or three at one time. But journaling, it helps you become like, why is that document even there? Like what was I self-forgiving myself for? Where was I coming from love when I wrote that statement? And so it's really helpful to do that because I got my first document was in March of 22, so that's 4 years ago. And I didn't change my document until December of 20 or January of 25. So there was a long gap of just saying the same thing over and over. And now I'm kind of getting that way with the new document. So, it's really important for me to stay present with it, because it's like if you just all of a sudden I end up on a statement and I don't know which ones were the ones before it, um, it doesn't work for me. What else? So I have people in my life record my document, and I've done this for others too. I would do it for anyone in this room, anyone anywhere. If you wanted your document spoken to you from another person, I would do it. So I've had people do it. So Farah Ishmael's done it for me. Janine Hurst has done it. Um, Jonathan Rather, I don't know how many people know Katharina Rather, but her husband Jonathan, he's an English Shakespearean actor, and when he speaks your document, it's so powerful to hear it in that voice of a Shakespearean actor from England speaking it. So I've got him, and then Igor. We had a call a couple weeks ago, and we were just talking, and he offered to record my document. And so I sent it to him. And then a couple days ago, maybe a week ago, I got it sent to me. And Igor, he did it. There's two ways you can do. There's a lot of ways you can do it, but and most of it, you can speak it the way the person wrote it. So I am, or you can speak it the way uh, from a different position, like you are. So Igor took every statement in my document and wrote it from you are. And it takes a bit of work to change the statements to be perfectly you are. And Igor did it. He nailed every single one of them. And then he put it through GarageBand and it has a reverberation to it. So it sounds like God is speaking my document. So I listened to that this morning before I got on here. I spoke my document and then I listened to Igor. So I will, and then, as I was doing it, I'm thinking, I don't have my kids haven't recorded my document, and I know the Coates family, they're just so amazing to me is that, they all recite each other's documents and, so that's an opportunity for me that I'm going to take on to have my kids speak it to me. I might ask Igor for that script that he used so I can make it easy for them and just say, here, do this. But, to be present to it, spoken to you, and then be present to it, speaking it into existence is amazing. And also, there's a tendency in the work that we do or the beings that we are to, you know, make things right or wrong, good or bad. So like I was even talking with Igor and we both, he even said, yeah, there was a time where I went like 2 weeks without saying my document once. And I've had some gaps where I missed a day or like last night, I missed it last night, so um you got to make sure that it's not um ethics or morality. Like if you speak it, it's not good. If you don't speak it, it's not bad. You just get a different result. So it's really about workability, or about the result. It's about who you're being. So yeah, that I wanted to talk about. And then um, if you go to the Coats's house, Mike and Jill have their document. It's visual, it's on the wall. And then the four kids, yeah, they have four kids. You probably met some of them. I know Wolfgang, I think you've seen Eleni, right? All those kids are incredible. And they all have their documents and they're all visual. It's on the wall in their home in a particular spot. So I'm gonna share what I've done with my document. I haven't put it in a picture frame yet. Let me find it here. But I want to, there it is. You guys seeing it? So what that image in the center is called a cymoglyph. And if you were to speak into a microphone and you would have an oscilloscope, you would see the frequency as a sine wave, right? That's how we look at vibration. But vibration isn't two-dimensional, it's three-dimensional. So as I speak, the words come out of my mouth as a bubble. And what this image here, a man named John Stuart Reid, he's in England. He created a tool called the cymoscope, which can take pictures of sound. So he takes a picture of a spoken word or whatever. It could be anything, any sound. And he puts the image onto purified water. I don't know to explain it any more than that. And then he takes a picture of it because everything vibrates, right? And so that image right here is me speaking the word love. It's the most important word in my vocabulary, and I will not write it with a lowercase L. It's going to have an uppercase L, and um, and it's so important. So this is me speaking the word love, and that's a slice of the bubble, is what that is. And then you can see my document is a spiral around it. Now it's hard to read as a spiral. So I'm going to have it redone. I've already talked to somebody about redoing it. We might put the bubble on one side and the document on the other, or we might put the document in the background, readable, and somehow put the bubble on, put the cymoglyph on there. So, but the importance of that is to be able to see your document visually, speak it yourself, hear it when others speak it, journal it to, engage more of your senses and to become present because it really is it's a activity to, it's a mindfulness or a meditative activity to be present in the moment, present in the now as often as you can be. And then I want to share, and then I figured I would just take questions, or I got a couple other things I could share, but this was kind of really interesting for me. I showed this morning to everyone that was on early, and that's you can see it better. It's a heart, and it's made out of some stone, and it's polished really nice. but a friend of mine makes those. His name is Trevor, and I just got back from a Dr. Joe Dispenza event about 3 weeks ago where I was a volunteer along with Trevor, and he said he made about 20 of these, and he wanted to give me one because of who I was being, and love was who I was being for him. So I've been carrying this in my pocket. And yesterday, and I'm traveling, I'm in California today. And yesterday I'm traveling and I put my hand in my pocket to touch it and it wasn't there. And so I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I left it in my pants and it's in the bottom of the washer. It fell out. And so I'll get it when I get back, but I don't have it. So I'm getting dressed this morning and I put on a pair of jeans here in California and I reach into my pocket and there it was. So what I had done is I had taken the jeans out of the washer. It never left the pocket. And then I even put it in the dryer and it never left the pocket. And then it showed up today before I did this talk with you all. So this is now my document in a form that I can carry with me. So the Cymoglyph, it's kind of hard to carry with you. And plus, when I do have it redone, it'll be a picture frame on the wall. I can always speak my document, but this is like the blink of an eye. I can hold my document and whatever statement I want it to be, it will be. So, what else? Little bit of science. I thought I would share a little bit of science too. And then I'll go with questions. There's a man, he's about 95 years old right now. I believe he's alive. His name is Eric Kandel, and he's a neuro he was I think he a neuroscientist, but might have been a different branch of science. It might have been psychology, but he is known for if you learn a new piece of information and you repeat it for an hour, you will double the connections in your brain. So it's key to remembering. So, I mean, you all have your own ways of remembering things, but I'll bet you there's repetition in it. So it's part of, Eric Kandel. The reason I know him is because I teach a course for Dr. Joe called Change Your Mind, Create New Results. And we talk about Eric Kandel, and in the training of the course, there's a lot of paired sharing for the purposes of repeating what you learned. And so that's having all of these things, a tool like this heart or the Cymoglyph or somebody else speaking it to you, is you integrating it into your brain as often as you possibly can so that you never lose it, so that it's always there. And that's what Eric Kandel found, that the connections will double within 1 hour. Well, what if you presence it every day like we're doing? Yeah, it'll be solidly in the folds of your gray matter. So let's see. Wolfgang, you started us off with breathing. I think breathing's a really cool thing to do before and during your document. And I've never really experienced your breathing. You've asked me to be in your rooms a few times, and I've always had something else going on. So this was the first time for me, and I was, I thought it was really good, and I'm gonna look at how I can be in one of your rooms coming up. Um, but yeah, it was, getting your heart coherent. And when your heart's coherent, your brain's coherent because your heart sends 4 times as much information to the brain as the brain sends to the heart. So breathing is how to do that. And so that. And so that's something. What else do I have here? Yeah, this is what Igor and I talked about. When you have those gaps where you don't speak your document, you can't make that bad. You just acknowledge it for what it is. You just didn't speak your document. And so, you acknowledge or declare, that that was out of integrity, but not out of integrity in a bad way. Just you didn't honor your word or you didn't keep your word. You can honor your word, so it's just a matter of declaring, okay, yeah, I didn't say my document for 2 weeks. And what are the impacts? Yeah, might be some impacts, maybe not. And then recommit. I'm going to start today. I'm going to start right now and I'm going to speak my document. And then you might even throw something into place. Like I know when I was first doing my document, I I put it on a text message that would send me a message to remind me, say your speak your document. I don't have to do that now, but I still have the system with the piece of paper. So I'm going to stop right there, and I'd love to have any comments or questions, or how can I help you, or how can you help me?
Let's breathe through and breathe it all in. And whatever question occurs, feel free to just let's breathe and just unmute. You don't have to raise your hand, just unmute and ask your question.
Thank you, Tom. That was lovely, and I missed talking to you. So
Been a while.
let's have a conversation soon. Um, yeah, I like your system. I I had a lot of gaps in speaking my document, and I just recently started with it again now. Every evening before I go to bed, I walk up and down my veranda because for me it's powerful when I'm walking. And so I walk and read my document. I still haven't memorized it. And I'm also still working on it. I started regrouping it. So I have the statements that are like same topics together. And also Wolfgang and I created our German documents. And we created them from scratch with the self-forgiveness. And I tell you, that was a kind of struggle to do that in German. For me, it took me one full session with Wolfgang just to get the statements for the self-forgiveness we write in German, you know.
How many statements did you have?
It's two A4 pages.
Okay.
It's like probably the same length than yours. Like this is how it looks like.
Yeah.
So I have 2 pages and I'm reading them, and half of it, I mean, what I'm doing with the document when I'm on the motorbike, especially when I'm on my way to work, I recite as much as I can. So whatever comes to my mind, I recite loud, out loud. So half of it is probably things. No, actually, I don't have a question. I just wanted to say that, yeah, I have these things with the gaps,
Mm-hmm.
and I also like to listen to Wayne's recording of my document, and he recorded a Renate is. No, a Renate you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and he did it very, very nicely. I love to listen to that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I'm so glad to see you again because we haven't talked in a while, and I've been wondering how you're doing. Um, yeah, the the statements of self-forgiveness. You talked about that especially in the German language. That was a difficult part for me because I got to 64 statements of self-forgiveness. And I started getting upset with myself. It's like I could keep going and going and never start converting them into statements because it's like I was just constantly, you know, um, berating myself or yeah, just. But it was good. It was because I was recognizing, you know, my Martin Heidegger thrownness way of being. And then there's a friend that I have, and I won't mention his name because he hasn't given me permission to say this, but he had 200 statements. And then Terry Broughton, she won't care. She's talked about this in public, and she's actually gone on and helped some of my clients with their documents. I've brought her into sessions, and she just really had a hard time um, coming up with all those judgments to forgive. So yeah, that would be, I think that's the most difficult part of the document process. And then creating, transforming them through the mantra into statements that eventually end up on your document, is the fun part. So yeah, thank you for that. Jan, surely you have something to contribute.
I have a question. We have found, and I'm curious about you and your document. We have found that it works better when we do it with somebody. So when we had our document creation, we've done it twice. The first time was for a month, and then we did it for 2 months. The second time was a lot better because we broke into triads, and then we worked together on the forgiveness thing so that we had feedback. Do you find that to be true?
Yeah, I've had some people contribute. I have a line in my document. I am healthy. I'm healthy. I have one body and I honor it with intelligent eating and daily training. It used to have something about not drinking because I stopped drinking alcohol in 22. And I had a person say, "Hey, you don't need to put the alcohol in there. You're just reminding yourself of what you didn't want." And so yeah, I took the coaching and I took it out, and it just has intelligent eating and daily training. So yeah, getting help from people, I think it's a great thing. I knew you guys were doing this, and I haven't participated in it, but I can just tell from who everybody's being in this room, that it's amazing things happened in there, and and I actually do like to tell people my document, right? It's like,
Yeah.
speaking it to yourself is one, but speaking it to someone else that can take it, because everybody always goes, "Oh, wow," or they put their hand on their heart, they do something like that. So yeah, I think it's cool to speak it with others.
Well, the second time I had three in my triad, and then one dropped out. The first time everybody dropped out, so I was alone. And so I really didn't have the opportunity. But the second time, Igor had spoke at one of our classes and he gave me his phone number. And so I sent him a message because Anne Marie was my partner. And we were wondering how to do the forgiveness thing, like how important is it and how to do it and all that. So I sent a message to Igor and he followed up and answered me back. He goes, "Jan, that's the most important thing. That you have to do that. That's the most important thing." So I took that back to Anne Marie and I said, "Talk to Igor." He said, "Got to do it. We got to do it. And we can do it together." And so we kind of held each other's hand because, it's hard, like you said. So we got through that. And I think creating my document after that came so naturally because it came from my heart, because I went through the process that I needed to go through. And thank you, Igor, for
Yeah.
for straightening us out. So
Yeah, I think Igor is coming up, isn't he, Wolfgang? Yeah.
Igor is the next gentleman who will be with us in May.
May.
But we will talk about that in 5 minutes. I
Yeah.
actually have a suggestion. Your document is about 5 minutes. We have another 5 minutes until we wrap up the call. I don't know how everyone else feels about to hear your document spoken by you for the next 5 minutes, which is exactly the time we have left.
Yeah. And just to answer what Jan said, yeah, the coolest part is, Igor calls it collecting caterpillars when you're doing the judgments. And then when you create the statements, it's turning them into butterflies. So it's a great analogy. I am a presence of love, opening space for myself, others, and the planet to evolve. I am a miracle, and you are too. I am love, you are love, we are love. I am a God personified in a universe of other gods and goddesses created by the God and made of intelligence and energy. I am oneness. I see no classes and no separation between individuals, regardless of sex, race, age, or belief. I'm virtuous, honorable, and deserving of self-respect. I'm authentically being me. I never need to look better because I am my most authentic expression. I'm always doing my best, and you are too. I'm compassionate and forgiving of myself and others. The circumstances occurring in my life and the conditions of my outer world are happening. How I respond is solely my creation. I'm committed to everything I give my word to and everything I haven't given my word to if others expect my commitment. I am steadfast. I'll never bail on me. I'll never bail on you. I'm a divine presence of love for all my friends. I'm a friend to everything and everyone, the best friend you could ever have. I'm a compassionate man who experiences deep and everlasting love for everyone, especially my family. I'm a loving father to Jessica and Ryan. The love we share means everything. I'm grateful to have them in my life and recognize I would not be their father or the man I am today without the love I shared with Penny. I'm a highly intuitive, encouraging coach who's unwavering in my commitment to your growth, with an incredible toolbox of skills that give you every ounce of my being. I'm a creator of results, knowing what to do, when to do it, and how to follow through. I immediately recognize what's essential and possess a keen sense of process, organization, and light speed implementation, making the seemingly impossible possible. I'm the best partner you could have on your journey. I serve at an insanely high level, never stepping over anything and always standing for extraordinary. I'm your best champion, always celebrating everything that brings you joy, happiness, and fulfillment. I'm a great salesperson, not by selling, but by powerfully enrolling others into their own possibilities. I am the architect of my life. Coming from curiosity and wonder, I enthusiastically seek new knowledge, beauty, and adventure. I am courageous. I'm constantly learning and mastering the art of transformation. I recognize that everyone and every circumstance is my teacher. There's something to gain in every moment. I'm the bright light of brilliance, possessing a thoughtful, intuitive, genius level intelligence. I'm a great listener, always hearing to understand, never drifting or planning a response. I'm fully self expressed from a place of love. I bring clarity and value to each communication, whether spoken, written, or otherwise. I'm a sexy, vibrant, charming, masculine man and always present to the potency in my being. I'm the most remarkable man a woman could ever have, kind, strong, and unwavering in my love and integrity. I hold space where my beloved feels completely safe, profoundly free, and deeply seen as she embodies her dreams, desires, self-expression, and self-actualization. I'm generous. No obligations are created, no debts are owed to me. I'm a gentleman. The loving kindness I share leaves everyone feeling good, especially me. Thoughts that fail to serve my being are abandoned. There is no space for complaining in my life. There is no space for judgment or gossip in my life. Recognizing my judgment and gossip is not the truth, I set them aside, creating love and magnificence. Every cell in my body is infinitely beautiful. My DNA is perfectly polished. My telomeres are lengthening, becoming revitalized with every happy day I create. I'm deeply connected to liveliness, health, heart, breath, and well-being. I'm healthy. I have one body and honor it with intelligent eating and daily training. I'm brimming with energy and vitality. I'm brimming with energy, vitality, and a youthful spirit, building lasting relationships with people of all ages. I always rely on my heart to guide me. I am that love is always the next thing to do. I declare the multiverse to be a safe place where infinite possibilities exist. I am playful and fun. This is who I am and created myself to be. And Mary Teresa, that's you, Mom, and Walter Stanley, that's you, Dad, named me Thomas Michael Lipinski. Call me Tom. I love you, Mom. I love you, Dad.
Let's just be with that for a moment. Allow your body to move.
It's the antidote to defaultness.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
And what a beautiful coincidence, which was coming to become aware today that Igor is actually really the next keynote speaker on the 28th of May. And he is very known about creating documents with other people. I just learned that he actually is also known for recreating the document with people who already made documents. So it is
Yeah, one thing
beautiful.
I learned from Igor, it's not the words. We have it in words so that we can speak it. It's the underlying ways of being, and the words are just a way of sharing it or practicing it, but it's the ways of being that are the document is action, not words.
So please come back in 1 month, same time, same Zoom space. This is the Zoom space room 509. It's always the same link. And I invite everyone to speak one word, what comes to your mind, summarizing this 1 hour you experienced here by simply unmuting and sharing.
Golden. Thank you.
Authentic.
Art. Love.
Peace.
Honor.
Connection.
Friendship.
Fun.
Thank you for coming. Feel free to stay here for the next 2 minutes, and also feel free to leave when the moment is there to leave. So create this ending exactly how it is for you. I love you. Thank you for coming. See you next time.
Yeah, those words flow out of your mouth. I love you. That's your word with a capital L.